Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to be talking Ossiarch Bonereapers, and we're going to be talking about getting started with one of the sub-factions, Petrifex Elite, and how we can do this inside Ossiarch Bonereapers. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a little bit of the lore first. We'll do a quick little lore summary of the Ossiarch Bonereapers Petrifex Elite sub-faction, and then we'll get into talking about how to start up this army. Fashioned from ancient skeletons excavated from the bedrock of the realms, the Petrifex Elite are war constructs made of fossilized bone. The vast majority of them are massive in construction, going to war as towering statues brought to life. The dark, dense bone of these giants is proof against any but the most finely crafted blades. The Legion of the Petrifex Elite is not typified by disciplined ranks like most of the other Ossiarch legions, but instead by massive lumbering war giants made of dense fossil rock. Those mortisans who command them are no larger than the rest of their kind, though they do share the same supernatural resilience as their Petrifex kin. It is whispered that the foremost Arcosians, as they are known, have taken armoured forms made not from the bones of monsters, but of the fabled god beasts themselves. Those enemies who find their blades rebounding from these ancient warriors can well believe that maybe this myth is true. The Petrifex Elite have no fortress or base of operations, instead continually roaming the lands of the living and the dead on their single-minded quest to slay everything in their path. They leave trails of deep footprints that span entire continents, grinding through and pounding flat anything in their path as they walk the geometric lines of magical energy that link the realms. Their war giants are massively strong, for though they are relatively few in number, the mortisans that create them ensure each one is built to last millennia. The mortisans enchant their fossil warriors with spells of resilience and repulsion. Though they look long dead, the touch of entropy has little effect upon them. Upon command, these giants bring their colossal weight to bear, bludgeoning and stomping through the defences of their prey with force enough to shatter limbs and shiver shields. Alright, so we've had a little bit of a chat about the lore. Let's get talking about the basics of the army. And to start with, well, it's an Ossiarch Bonereapers sub-faction, so this means we're going to get all the Ossiarch Bonereapers rules. This means that we're going to get Lords of the Ossiarch Empire, meaning we can include Nagash, Supreme Lord of the Undead, and Arcan the Black in our army, and they gain the Ossiarch Bonereapers keyword if we choose to do so. We get Deathless Warriors, which is the same thing all death armies in Warhammer Age of Sigmar get in some variation, which is effectively a 6-up to ignore wounds or mortal wounds inflicted after your armor saves. This has a range around different models in your army, where it's wholly within 6 inch of any friendly Mortarch Hecatos, or wholly within 12 inch of a friendly Bonereapers hero. So if your units are all nice and bunched up together within 6 inch of the leader of the unit, they're going to get a 6-up after death save. DPR, ward save, feel no pain, whatever you want to call it. Ossiarch Bonereapers are completely immune to battle shock, so that's one to remember. And then we've also got the fact that they also don't generate command points normally. So they still do generate command points. They're there. You just can't use them. So that is something to really keep in mind. However, for Ossiarch Bonereapers, you get Relentless Discipline points. And these are generated at the start of every battle round before determining who has the first turn. You receive 1 Relentless Discipline point for each friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers hero that is on the battlefield. You receive 1 additional Relentless Discipline point for each War Squad battalion in your army and each friendly liege that is on the battlefield. An additional 3 Relentless Discipline points if Catacross is your general and on the battlefield. Then you roll a dice for each friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit and you get an extra one of these points on a 6. Relentless Discipline points effectively are used like command points, except all your units in Ossiarch Bonereapers have their own particular command abilities that they can spend these on. So generally you go through a lot more. All your Relentless Discipline resets at the beginning of your next turn, and so you don't get to keep any and carry them over. You've also got Unstoppable Advance. It's a command trait you can use because you're not using command points. This means you don't get access to the generic command abilities inside the General's Handbook and Core Rulebook. So you've got Unstoppable Advance, which is you can use the command ability in your movement phase. If you do so, you pick one friendly unit that has the Hecatos keyword, or wholly within 6 inch of a friendly Mortec Hecatos, or is within 12 inch of a friendly Bonereapers hero. You add 3 to the move characteristic of that unit. it can still run and charge if it does so. So it's a slightly different way of giving you some extra movement, not really on charge and not making it run 6, but it's sort of almost better in a way. It has its advantages over the two. Now that we've got the Ossiarch Bonereapers stuff out the way, we can start talking about what exactly makes Petrifex Elite great. Now, the big thing about them is they've got both offensive and defensive buffs. Now, massively, they have a major FAQ that changes one of their abilities that made them rather unpopular on the tabletop for a while, where in the book it does say you add one to your save rolls for Petrifex Elite units. This is not the case. I repeat, not the case anymore. There is an FAQ on Warhammer Community that changes this to reroll ones to save for melee attacks against Bonereaper Petrifex Elite units only. You also have a command ability that allows you to pick a unit in the ranges as normal, as what we sort of discussed already, and you can add one to the rend. It can only be used on each unit once. You've got a cool command trait in there as well, which gives +2 wounds to your general. Cool, really fitting in with the theme. And then you've got the Godbone armor, which negates the first wound inflicted to the bearer in each phase. So this potentially, could stop a wound in the hero phase, stop a wound in the shooting phase, stop a wound in combat phase, and even, if you're playing Nighthawk, stop a wound in the charge phase as well. A whole bunch of other things it can do. Anyway, we've started talking about what the army can do. Let's look at how we begin building this army. Alright, so where do we start for collecting a Ossiarch Bonereapers army using the Petrifex Elite subfaction? Well, to start with, I'm going to suggest picking up a Liege Cavalos. Liege Cavalos has some really cool abilities. He's also a really tanky hero, so he's going to make great use out of those artifacts and command trait that we get. You chucking an extra 2 wounds on him mean he's going to be a 9 wound character on a 3-up save, which is pretty decent. He's also going to be ignoring that first wound he suffers at each phase, so this can make him quite a lot more survivable. In addition, when you consider that he's rerolling 1s to save in combat as well. Liege Cavalos, he's got some decent combat potential as well offensively, where he's got 3 attacks that are Ren 1 damage 2, he's got his battle shield, does an extra, maybe a bit of damage, and his mount is okay with 6 attacks, 3 3s, Ren 1 damage 1. He's got the unstoppable charge where he picks one enemy unit he lands a charge within an inch of, and he rolls a dice equal to the number of charge, equal to the number of the dice roll for the charge, and he does some mortal wounds on 6s. In addition, he can move an extra 3 inch when he piles in if he made a charge in the same turn. Pretty cool. Which is some cool little tricks you can do that. If he goes in and wipes out a unit with that charge, he can actually then make a 6 inch pile in into something else, which is pretty sweet. His command ability though is Endless Duty, and this is why we're taking him. You can use this in the command ability in your shooting phase or combat phase. If you do so, you pick one friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit wholly within 12 inch of the model with his command ability, and you add 1 to their attacks. This can make those Mortek Guard really, really offensively good. You combine this with Petrifex Elite's extra rend. If they've got swords, which they already have a rend on, they're going to be quite a few attacks between them, as they're going to be rend 2, and they're also going to have 3 attacks each, which is pretty nice. And then they've also got the potential for Netherite weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with their Netherite blades or spears is a 6, they score 2 hits instead of 1. So this can really start to compound and really be offensively good. I mean, the only thing lacking really for Mortek Guard is the fact that they, I guess, don't, or wound on 4s is their big neg, but I would definitely recommend building your first few blobs of Mortek Guard with swords and running them more elite unit-wise in, I guess, Petrifex Elite, as you're not going to really get as much use out of the spears. You're wanting to really compound that amount of rend you're going to be getting throughout the army. But now we've got this sort of base sorted for our army, where do we go expanding upon it is next. Well, where to next for Ossiarch Bonereapers, and especially playing Petrifex Elite, we really want to take use of the fact that Hekatos units can, I guess, make use of that extra rend. So we're going to really start looking at things that can really double down on that. And so we're going to start by looking at Morghast. Morghast are the cool flying models that came out at the end of the old world in actually Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, and have carried over onto Ossiarch Bonereapers, maybe the first ever insight we got into these cool models. But for me, it's the fact that they already have a Ren 2 weapon that's damage 3 in their Spirit Halberds, which can now become Ren 3 damage 3, and suddenly that looks very nasty. Ren 3 means it's getting through things like the Geometrica Luminous stone stuff, and it's also getting some of those Liberators down as well. Ren 3 all of a sudden puts those new Stormkeep Patrol Liberator blobs of a 2-up rerollable save down to a 5-up rerollable save, so that really hurts them. Even then, you've got your more plentiful attacks with the 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 1 damage 2, which could become Ren 2 damage 2 for 5 attacks. Pretty nice, and both units of Morghast are definitely worth having a look into. But for me, I don't think there's any better unit to go pick up next than your Necropolis Stalkers. Necropolis Stalkers are cool. They almost take on that Wood Elf Warhammer Fantasy aspect where they play different dances every game, and in fact it's like the head that turns around and switches to a different type of face and different aspect, and they can take all these different aspects every turn. What's great though is one of them is improve the rend and damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons by 1. So this means that they're going to be Ren 2 damage 2 with 5 attacks each. You can then make that Ren 3 damage 2, or on the Dread Falchions it can be Ren 4 damage 3. That is horrendously good. For me, these are a really great unit to add into your army, especially if you're playing Petrifex Elite. They're just going to be able to do so much. And they can also do some defensive stuff as well, or even choose to reroll hit rolls as well. So you can get, reroll hit rolls with just your normal additional rend, and not use the precision aspect additional rend as well. So meaning you can be reroll hit rolls of 1, 3s to hit, rend 2, damage 2, or damage 1 rather. And for me, they've got a lot of options and a lot of play, and I really highly rate the Necropolis Stalkers. The last unit I'm going to suggest is, well, something you should definitely consider taking if you've ever got large blobs of Mortek Guard, and that's a Gothizzar Harvester. He effectively keeps them in the fight longer. He allows you to rebuild those Mortek Guard units near him, so he's definitely a solid buy. I guess a special shout out as well, if you're playing Ossiarch Bonereapers, Catacross has got to be on your list at some point as well. But now that we've talked a little bit about what to get and where to go from your starting point, let's have a little 1,000 point, I guess, sort of sample list for everyone to have a look at as how this might look on the tabletop. So here we go, we've got a 1,000 point little sample army here. It actually comes up to 970 points, meaning there's a good chance you can get a Triumph. Ossiarch Bonereapers still do get to make use of Triumphs, there's nothing stopping them doing that. But for our leader, we've got a Liege Cavalos. He's going to be our general, and he's going to have the Mighty Arcosian command trait, which means he gets +2 wounds. Nice. He's going to be at a 3-up save with 9 wounds. That's pretty decent for a general. And he's also going to have the artifact Godbone Armor, which negates the first wound he suffers in each phase. So he's pretty survivable for a general, especially at these sort of point levels. For battle line, we've got 20 Mortek Guard with Nadirite Blades and 2 Soul Cleaver Great Blades, and then 10 Mortek Guard with Nadirite Blades and 1 Soul Cleaver Great Blade. Now, the Soul Cleaver Great Blades are interesting. They're not Nadirite weapons, so this means while they have a slightly better profile than the blades that the rest of the unit will carry, they don't actually get the exploding 6s unlike the rest of the weapons in the unit. So there's just maybe that trade-off to consider whether or not you wish to include them in your force. For our other units, we've got 3 Necropolis Stalkers. We've talked at length about how great I think they are. And we've got a Gothizzar Harvester rounding out our army, and he's going to sit back around the Mortek Guard. The reason he's in here is because we've not taken a Bone Shaper or another Wizard to sort of replenish our units, so we're going to be needing that Gothizzar Harvester to making sure those units are sticking around and staying in the fight. This will be a fun little army that'll really push forward, has some defensive play as well in it. And you've got a good offensive unit in the Necropolis Stalkers. I think this is really going to show you what Petrifex Elite can do as you sort of get to play that defensive and offensive game at once. And it just is a nice, solid starting 1,000 points. And pretty low model count, really. I mean, it is 1 monster and, 33 troops. That's a pretty decent, easy army to get painted up. And if you've got this, you've got half your Mortek Guard, you're probably going to be running at 2k done up to begin with. But let us know what you've been running with Petrifex Elite. That's it for today though, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, while you're on YouTube, why not go check out the featured channel section on my channel, where you'll find a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators putting out a bunch of fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content. Also, you can jump on our Discord server, you'll find a link to in the description of the video, and you can come chat with me and other members of the community as much as you want there. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon. Thank you all so much for helping support the channel. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Cowspawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Jarvis. Thank you all for helping support the channel. If you'd like to help support the channel like these people do, you can do so by following one of the links down to either YouTube members or Patreon in the description of the video. That's it for today, everyone, though. Hope you've all had a good time. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against Grey. Ciao for now.